Yesterday, the inflation number came out lower than expected. Again, I think people pocketed it. And it was funny because I feel like the media is cheering. They're like, well, maybe the full effect of Donald Trump's chaotic trade policy hasn't taken effect. I mean, it was almost like they were making an excuse for it can't possibly be this good.
When Trump was first elected in 2016, and you played such a major role at that time, do you remember all the headlines? I mean, my God, Donald Trump's going to cause a second Great Depression. It's going to be the worst, stock market, the worst job market ever. And of course, it was exactly the opposite. And so I laugh. Now they're doing exactly the same thing. Trump's going to cause a Great Depression again. I'm like, would you people ever change your tune? Look at what's happened with the stock market. It's up 3,500 points in the last month.
All right, guys, I can't believe it's Tuesday. I mean, I feel like in Trump time, you never slow down. The weekends are not time to rest. So sometimes you go, wow, it's Tuesday, and there's already tons happening. And sure enough, the guy is on his first big overseas trip. I mean, like the Pope visit technically counts, but it wasn't like that was a planned trip where you get deliverables. But this thing yesterday, we talked initially yesterday about the investment and the amount of money. Right. It's always so Trump, by the way, $600 billion in pledges. And he goes, can you get that to $1 trillion? He's always fighting for more, which I think is hysterical because he did that, remember, with the SoftBank guys. And he was just like, can you get that number up in terms of your investment? But that's who he is. It's so cool in a way. Think about that. Like, I always feel like if it were me, I'd be like, just, hey, thanks. That's amazing. And Trump's always like, a little more. Let's get it closer to $1 trillion. I mean, who does that except him? But I will tell you, the speech he gave, aside from all that, was unbelievable. And you're probably hard-pressed to read about it or see about it if you're looking at traditional media. I mean, just think about this for a second. I want to outline this for you because I'm going to play you some of it in a minute. Trump outlined an entirely new way forward, an America first foreign policy, if you will. He's talking about how, yes, I want to be your friends. I want to lift you up. We have permanent interests, not permanent friends. And I think it was one of the most consequential speeches to understand him over, how he'll govern over the next 3 years, but also how he views some of these other countries. He talked about Syria. I'll tell you about that in a second. He talked about Iran. And yet, when I flipped around the news this morning, it was like, did I was the only one who had the internet yesterday? Because these guys literally almost pretended it didn't happen. So I'm going to break down the speech for you in just a second. Huge event. And then obviously he's in UAE today. I expect a lot more news coming out. He went to Qatar today. Then he goes to the UAE. And in each stop, I think you're going to see a lot of investment. But before I do that, I just want to make sure you guys understand. Steve Moore, one of the president's economic advisors from 2016, he actually nominated Steve to the Fed in his first term. Didn't happen because of the Democrats. He's going to join us in a second to break all this down. Big, beautiful bill, the trip, the economy, where we are, et cetera. So excited about that. But let me get back to this trip for a second. The Crown Prince, he's informally known as MBS, Mohammed bin Salman. Sorry. He totally showed Trump as he headed off to Qatar. Take a look. It was pretty cool. And it was just so different than when Biden went over there. You remember Biden was, he tried to talk tough about how he's going to deal with the Saudis, and then he wussed out. And it was like literally like just getting a fist bump from him. And it was just so different. And by the way, you look at the people and the investments. I was there on the Trump first term. And by the way, I'm trying to put a bunch of these behind the scenes photos from the first thing on my Instagram and on the story if you want to get a sense. But it's very similar. But the point is, all these business leaders are there. It was just so different than Biden. And again, the results are obviously a big difference. You're seeing the investment in the United States, the purchases, et cetera. The president heading off, as I said, landing in Qatar this morning, then to UAE, but at the same time announcing that Marco Rubio is going to head over to Turkey. Big question, does Putin show up? I say he does. I'm not convinced that there's going to be substantial progress because I don't think Putin does this, but I'm telling you that Putin, I don't know if he watches the show, but I'm telling you, dude, you better get your act together because President Trump has given peace the best chance for happening in that region and on probably the most favorable terms you'll ever get. If you screw with him, he's going to make it very well known that you screwed him over. So anyway, so you got Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Keith Kellogg, retired general from first term, who's leading the Ukrainian diplomacy efforts. But that's big enough as it is. But then in the president's speech yesterday, as I said, he talks about Syria. I want to show you how he's handling this one area of the country. Now take a look.
Likewise in Syria, which has seen so much misery and death, there is a new government that will hopefully succeed in stabilizing the country and keeping peace. That's what we want to see in Syria. They've had their share of travesty, war, killing, many years. That's why my administration has already taken the first steps toward restoring normal relations between the United States and Syria for the first time in more than a decade. And I'm very pleased to announce that Secretary Marco Rubio will be meeting with the new Syrian foreign minister in Turkey later this week. And very importantly, after discussing the situation in Syria with the Crown Prince, your Crown Prince, and also with President Erdogan of Turkey, who called me the other day and asked for a very similar thing, among others, and friends of mine, people that I have a lot of respect for in the Middle East, I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
Now that's how you do foreign policy. You got the golf clap, by the way, in the back. If you saw Elon there, just a little golf clap, getting Elon's approval. But think about this. This is a guy, I don't think he'll ever get the credit he deserves in a lot of areas, but in particular on this, in terms of peace. Trying to get the Russians and the Ukrainians together for peace, trying to get an end of the sensation of at war over in Gaza, obviously different situation and different means there. Here he is again in Syria. But it doesn't just end there. This is him talking about the Houthis. Take a look.
In recent weeks, following repeated attacks on American ships and freedom of navigation in the Red Sea, the United States military launched more than 1,100 strikes on the Houthis in Yemen. As a result, the Houthis agreed to stop. They said, we don't want this anymore. It's the first time you've heard that from them, too. They're tough. They're fighters. But just days ago, we were asked to cease targeting commercial. They were not going to be targeting commercial ships in any way, shape, or form, or anything American. And they were very happy that we stopped. But we had 52 days of thunder and lightning like they've never seen before. This was a swift, ferocious, decisive, and extremely successful use of military force. Not that we wanted to do it, but they were shooting down ships. They were shooting at you. They were shooting at Saudi Arabia. We don't want them shooting at Saudi Arabia, if that's okay. So we hit them hard. We got what we came for, and then we got out.
More peace. But he makes it very clear. I'm not just handing this stuff over. I'll come at you hard. I think there was a line, though, that stood out to me that really explained his view on, as I said, the Trump foreign policy, what I think is the America First foreign policy. He really explained what he thinks our role as a country should be and how he'll implement it. Take a look.
In recent years, far too many American presidents have been afflicted with the notion that it's our job to look into the souls of foreign leaders and use U.S. policy to dispense justice for their sins. They loved using our very powerful military, and now it's really the most powerful it's ever been. We just are getting a budget approved, $1 trillion, highest budget we've ever had in history for military, $1 trillion. And we're getting the greatest missiles, the greatest weapons. And, I hate to do it, but you have to do it because we believe in peace through strength. You have to have the strength, otherwise bad things could happen. But hopefully we'll never have to use any of those weapons. Seems to be an awfully big waste of money if you're never going to use them, but hopefully we'll never have to use them because the destructive power of some of those weapons are like nobody's seen before. I believe it is God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America, and to promote the fundamental interest of stability, prosperity, and peace. That's what I really want to do.
That line, to me, epitomizes everything. It's God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America and to promote the fundamental interests of stability, prosperity, and peace. I hope someone writes that down in a book, because that, to me, is one of those lines that goes down in history. You know, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. All those lines that you hear in the, over and over again from past presidents when they've given great speeches. That, to me, should be one of the big speech lines that gets used over and over again. As I said, it's not, all these pieces in themselves, the peace, the direction of our foreign policy in themselves would be big deals. But then you talk about the actual deliverables, the amount of money, $600 billion in Saudi. We're talking a ton that is going to get announced or will be announced or is announced in Qatar. And then the UAE also, in terms of military sales, they're talking about $1 trillion there. Think about all that combined with the investments that are happening. I'm going to ask Steve more about this in just a second, because when you don't have all this baked in economically, all this additional investment, that's got to have a very positive economic impact, right? Think about it. All of these companies that were already investing, Apple, NVIDIA, Eli Lilly, et cetera, right, who announced big things, they call it the Trump effect. But then you got these countries now buying a lot of, especially military weapons and technology investments. That's huge for the economy. It's unbelievable. All right, a couple bit of housekeeping. As I said, Steve Moore on his way up. I want to get his take on all things economics. The big, beautiful bill as it's kind of making its way through Congress slowly. The foreign direct investment, the inflation, all that good stuff, plus the president's announcement on pharmaceutical drugs. But tomorrow, the panel's going to be here. And why I say that, because it's going to be great. Bradley Devlin from the Daily Signal, Steve Cortez, our good friend there, and Grace Curley as well. I want to talk about this new Biden book that everybody's buzzing about that I think is a complete farce. I will talk about this very specifically tomorrow with the panel, because I want to get their take. But guys, I just suffice to say, I got a lot of thoughts on this. And then Steve Bannon is coming up on Friday. So massive, massive show coming your way for the week. So stay tuned. A lot happening. Please do me a favor, though. Just hit that subscription button, hit the notification button so you don't miss it. 2 favors. Well, 3. Let's do the first one. Please always sign up for the newsletter, SeanSpicer.com. It's free. It's awesome. Thank you. 2, please join us at 6 o'clock live. It's so helpful for the algorithm. If you're watching on the first, thank you. I appreciate it. If you're not, go to YouTube and hit that subscription button and watch me. But then send the link to 5 friends as you're watching and say, hey, join the chat. There's so many great folks in the chat every day, but do that. But share it with 5 friends and join us at 6 if you can, because it really helps YouTube promote it to others, to new people. And that's where we've seen all this growth, why we've now cleared 150,000 subscribers, because of you guys and you're sharing it and your dedication. I can't thank you enough when I jumped into this. Anyway, I want to just tell you about 2 of our great sponsors. You guys know that tax day passed us. That was April 15th. But for millions of Americans, they still have problems because they have unfiled taxes or amounts that they still owe. And I've said this before, whether it's the DOJ, the IRS, these guys have the power of the federal government to come after any of us. And the IRS in particular, their job is to make sure Congress has all this money to spend, right? That's their goal. So they have like over 5,000 new tax liens that are filed every single day. That should blow your mind. They've got tools, as you probably know, property seizure, bank levies, wage garnishing. They'll come after you like nothing you've ever seen before. So if you are one of these people, if you're self-employed, if you have unfiled taxes, personal, professional, doesn't matter. If you know that this is going to be, it's just a matter of time. Get ahead of the curve. Call the people that are, I think, the best in the business at advocating for you. It's absolutely free to just have a consultation with you. And I'm talking about the folks at Tax Network USA. These guys have gotten over $1 billion recovered for their clients. They know they have preferred direct lines in the IRS. So they're going to make sure you talk to the right people. These are people, as I said, it's completely free just to have a conversation with them. And they are so good at what they do. Give them a call at 1-800-958-1000, or better yet, go to TNUSA TNUSA.com/Sean Spicer, full name. TN stands for Tax Network. TNUSA.com/Sean Spicer, all one word. I know you may have missed April 15th, but don't wait until they come after you. But if they're the bad guy, if the IRS are the bad guys, you know who the good guy is. You know this because I say it all the time. My friend, Leo Grillo, he is the founder of Delta Rescue. And it all started with one Doberman, as you guys know. If you're a long-time watcher, you've heard me talk about Leo Grillo. Puts a smile on my face when I say his name because he's a good guy. He rescued a dog, named the dog Delta, dedication, everlasting love to animals, and then went beyond, well beyond, and founded Delta Rescue. If you go to deltarescue.org, you'll see what I'm talking about. Amazing, amazing videos of the work that they do. Cats, dogs, horses, you name it, all shapes and sizes, malnutrition, abused, neglected animals. He takes from everything in. World's largest no-kill sanctuary, not a shelter, a sanctuary. They rely entirely, though, on people like me and you making a donation. No USAID grants, no government programs. I've made a personal donation to Leo and the work at Delta Rescue. If you go to deltarescue.org, you can do the same. Hit the estate planning kit while you're there. Just take a look at it because I would like to see this go on for generations. And if you have an old 401k or an IRA sitting around or even a stock, you can talk with your tax planner and maybe you can get some benefit. So go to deltarescue.org and check out all the great work they're doing. All right, without further hesitation, I want to introduce our all-star guest today, Mr. Steve Moore. He is a principal at the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation, a former board member of the Wall Street Journal editorial board, and an advisor to President Trump on all things economic. Steve, good to see you. Let's just start with this trip. What do you make of the economic impact so far of what he has done in Saudi, now UAE, with these investment pledges that have occurred?
Well, this has been an amazing set of blockbuster deals. Donald Trump has apparently uh, gotten agreements from. I'll believe the whole thing when they were actually signed, sealed, and delivered. But my God, the last month, the economy and the stock market have really shown vast improvements. We've regained almost all the losses during the months of March and April due to the turmoil from the trade issues. So this is very good news for the economy. If Trump stays on this roll, Sean, I think you're going to see just an explosion of economic activity. Now, look, we're not out of the woods yet. I still think there's choppy waters to come in terms of getting these agreements. And with China, it goes back to what Reagan used to say when he was negotiating against with Gorbachev in the Soviet Union, that you have to have trust but verify. So we have to make sure that the Chinese don't cheat and they don't lie and steal. But if this is real, and if it can really be put into effect, I think it'll be enormously beneficial. And then of course we have to get the big beautiful bill passed, and then it is clear sailing.
All right, but so let's break this down for a second. The White House has this website, whitehouse.gov/investments, where they call it the Trump effect. And they're talking about Apple and Nvidia. Now, obviously, he's gotten these investment commitments in Saudi Arabia to buy military stuff, whatever. When you look at this as an economist, like, I feel like the media pockets these deals. Like, okay, yeah, Apple 500 billion, Nvidia 500 billion, Saudi buying all these, in the UAE buying all this military equipment. But like, that's got to have, I would assume, a major effect on the economy, because all of this investment and these purchases helping U.S. companies that wasn't, I assume, wasn't expected, right? So when you add in all of this capital, that's got to have a positive effect that wasn't already baked in economic assumptions.
No question about that. And I've heard all sorts of different numbers, Sean, about how much money we're talking about here. But I've heard one figure as high as $2 trillion. I mean, that's gigantic. That's a massive new investment in the United States economy. Think about how many jobs are created with even, let's say, if it's even half that amount. $1 trillion of investment would be enormous for both for American investors, and we're all investors in America, but also in terms of creating high-paying jobs here. So very excited about all of this. Trump does understand the art of the deal better than anybody else. And the thing is, it wasn't even for that hard, Sean, for him to get it done. I mean, he's only been in office 110 days or something.
That is, I mean, that's my point, though. Is he's getting all this stuff done? I feel like it just gets pocketed. Like, yep, another deal, and no one's giving him the credit, because it's not like Biden did anything like this. And I'm not trying to just do a comparison. It's like, dude, you don't just get trillions of dollars in an investment because people were bored. They do it because they believe in your policies and the direction of the country. But speaking of those people, Stephen, and I don't mean to be petty, well, I kind of do. But I'm looking at the optics of this trip, and I'm seeing a bunch of business leaders go over there. And among the people are like Reid Hoffman, the founder of Netflix, and Larry Fink of BlackRock. I don't know. Just from maybe I need to hear from Steve more from an economic perspective to stop worrying about the political pettiness that I want to endear myself to. But like, I'm like, why are these guys allowed to sort of, play at this high of a level after everything they did to oppose Donald Trump?
Well, that's a great question. I wish I had a good answer to that. Look,
Okay.
I don't think business decisions should be made based on politics, and so I'm not a big fan of picking winners and losers. But what Trump is really doing is trying to expand the American economy. One of the things Trump has done, that the world's changed so much since he first came into the office in 2017. And what I've found, Sean, is people like Larry Fink. I had lunch with him, with Grover Norquist and a few others, not long ago. And, he was saying, look, I'm a businessman. I just want to make money. And I'm not really that, political. And now he has been political, but I think it was an interesting lunch because what we were telling him, and the same thing with the people in Silicon Valley, is like, we're not your enemies. The enemies are the people on the left who are trying to
Right.
destroy you guys. And I think there's a recognition that Trump is pro-business, and pro-business is good for all businesses. So that's, I think, why we have a real chance to get these, these corporate people who've been so averse to conservatives to look. We just want to be left alone. we just want not to be
But Larry Fink,
discriminated
first of all,
against.
tell me, did he pay for the lunch at least?
Yes, he did. And here's a guy who has,
Good.
he has trillions of dollars. But look, Trump is doing this with Google. He's doing with BlackRock.
I
He's doing
know.
this with Apple. And I think, in the end of the day, these people should be behind Trump. He's pro-America.
I know, but when they had a chance, Larry Fink, what do you mean he's not? I get what he's trying to say now, but this is a guy who pushed woke DEI
Oh, I
policies
know.
and all these boards, and now suddenly he's like, yeah, I'm not political. Yeah, no kidding, because your policies were horrible. The American people sided with President Trump. I mean, look, I don't want to go off on this, but it is amazing how
But
these
I'll
people
just
are
say
like,
this,
oh, yeah, yeah.
in my meetings with some of these people, because I've been meeting with some of these, not necessarily the CEO. Well, we met with the CEO of Google, met with with Larry Fink. They are coming around to our point of view. You're right. They're past, and I hit these guys hard. I said, you guys don't understand the American people. This is a center right country. It's not a center left country. You're not really representing the values of America. And some of them, you'd be surprised who kind of nod their head. I think that the election of 2024 woke. Now they really are woke. They're woke to what's really happening in America.
All right, hate to interrupt this conversation, but I want to tell you, you guys know I have made a big change in an attempt to get more sleep, because sleep is at the cornerstone of wellness. If you want to live healthier, you must get a good night's sleep. And I've shown you this before. I crush these bags of Beams Dream Powder. I love them. It's like a late night dessert. It tastes that good. The coconut cinnamon one is amazing. I've been doing the brownie one all week. The peppermint one, amazing as well. The flavors are great. It's like you literally get dessert before you go to bed. It's that good. The problem is, it literally will put you to sleep. I love this stuff because I've tried everything in the past: melatonin, magnesium, and this thing combines that with L-theanine, reishi, apigenin into all, so it's all natural. That's what's so cool about it. But when I take this, I take a scoop, put it in water, 30 seconds in the microwave. Some people use milk, some people don't put it in the microwave. I don't care. I like it that way because it's like a warm little drink before you go to bed. My head hits the pillow. Boom, I'm out and I wake up rip roaring to go. No grogginess. And it's all natural. Beam has helped over 17.5 million nights sleep in America. Athletes, professionals. I'm telling you guys, I travel with this stuff. I'm so into it now because it gives me such a great night's sleep. And I'm not the only one. They are now willing to help you, giving our listeners, the people of this show, the ultimate Patriot discount. So go to shopbeam.com/Spicer. code word Spicer in the little checkout thing, and then you could save up to 40%, whatever flavor you want. Shopbeam.com/Spicer, code word Spicer, up to 40% off. Get a great night's sleep, support an American company. Shopbeam.com/Spicer, code word Spicer. Now back to Steve. Let me move on to yesterday. The inflation number came out lower than expected. Again, I think people pocketed it. And it was funny because I feel like the media is cheering. They're like, well, maybe the full effect of Donald Trump's chaotic trade policy hasn't taken effect. I mean, it was almost like they were making an excuse for it can't possibly be this good. Did you like, I don't, like it's I don't know. I think there's a two-part question here. One is, did you expect inflation to be as low as it was? And two, I feel like they keep trying to make excuses like it's supposed to be worse because they don't like the policies and the way in which Donald Trump is pursuing them. Therefore, we can't possibly be having this good economic news.
Well, a couple things on this. One is that you remember this, I'm sure, because you were there when Trump was first elected in 2016, and you played such a major role at that time. Do you remember all the headlines? I mean, my God, Donald Trump's going to cause a second Great Depression. Remember that?
I
I
know.
mean,
Yep.
all the
Oh, wow.
economists, oh my
Forgot.
God, it's going to be the worst, stock market, the worst job market ever. And of course, it was exactly the opposite. And so I laugh. Now they're doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, Trump's going to cause a Great Depression again. I'm like, would you people ever change your tune? Now, look, if you'd asked me a month ago, I was very nervous about where things were going. I have to say, I was a doubting Thomas. I didn't know whether Trump could pull off these trade deals, and I was scared. I was on the ledge. But boy, I feel so much better about things right now. I guess I should learn my lesson never to doubt Donald Trump and pulling out a rabbit out of a hat. But boy, has he done this. And look, again, I want to stress, I still think there's a lot of turbulent waters ahead on these trade deals because a lot of these countries, they lie, they cheat, they steal. You've got to really make sure these deals are being enforced. But I'm in a good mood right now. I think investors look at what's happened with the stock market. It's up 3,500 points in the last month.
But why are you? See, here's what I don't get about nervous, right? And this is why I just explain this to me, because the way I look at this is the easy thing to do is nothing. Just allow countries to keep screwing us on their tariff and non-tariff barriers.
Right.
Trump's
Yes.
taking them on. The worst case scenario, in my opinion, and again, this is where I want you to give me the economic perspective,
Yeah.
is we go back to status quo, but there's, in my opinion, and I got a D in economics, is that there's only upside. We can only get a better deal because reverting back just puts us to where we were, unless you're seeing something that I don't.
Well, first of all, let's not forget the trade is really the essence of what economics is all about. If you and I trade, if I give you something you want and you buy it from me and I buy something from you, by definition, we're both better off because we've engaged in a voluntary exchange. And that's what all economics really comes down to, trade. And that's not just true of people, it's true of nations. So if we can get coffee beans from Brazil that are great and we can sell them computers, that's great too. And my worry was what was happening in March and April was, we have a lot of members of our group, Unleash Prosperity, who run manufacturing firms and run construction firms and so on. They were saying, look, my business is down 50% because I can't get the parts, I can't get the steel, I can't get the aluminum I need, all the stuff that makes America globally integrated. And what was worrying me was that if we weren't going to get these trade deals done, then some of these factories were going to have to either close down or they might have to, lay off workers. I think we've averted that, and if anything, now they're ready to expand.
I want to play you a clip of Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, explaining what he thinks the Trump agenda is, if you will. Take a listen.
The Trump economic plan is three pieces: trade, tax, and deregulation. Trade has been implemented first, and that process is occurring. We believe that the tax portion is going very well. Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, who I am in constant contact with, believe that midsummer we will pass, as the president likes to call it, his one big beautiful bill, and we believe that will provide substantial relief for American households. And then deregulation, a hidden and pernicious tax on American households is regulation. We believe that the last administration added several $1,000s a year to American families' cost, and that we will be not only cutting those substantial, rolling that back, but cutting those substantially.
So are those three pillars of the Trump economic plan sufficient? Is that a good plan? Are they missing anything?
Well, I would add to that. I thought Scott Bassett did a wonderful job of explaining those things. I would add to it. I love what Trump is doing on energy. That is a huge, huge sector of our economy. You know this, Sean. You've been with Donald Trump very often, but I mean, whenever I say to Trump, we should be energy independent, he says, no, we're going to be energy dominant, and I think we're really on the way to be energy dominant. We have the enough oil, gas, coal. We have minerals. We have trillions of dollars of these resources, and so I would make that sort of the fourth leg of that stool. But I wanted to just say one thing, just because people, when we talk about deregulation, people, they don't exactly know what we mean. And I'll just give you a concrete example. This is an executive order that Trump just signed a few days ago. So you know how when you travel a lot, I travel a lot. When you go to these hotels and you turn on the shower and the water just kind of drips out. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I do.
Yeah. So that was because of these stupid rules. Some of them go back to Bush, some of them go back to Obama and Biden, that, oh, we're going to conserve water by just not letting water come out of the shower head. So you'd have to sit under the shower for 10 minutes before you even got wet. Well, Trump's saying, no, we're getting rid of these stupid regulations. It's going to be great. Now, when you go to shower, you turn on the shower. Guess what? The water is going to come. Or same thing with if you notice the toilets, sometimes the toilets don't flush. Because of
Well, Lee Zeldin, by the way, is that thing when some cars now, when you pull up to stop and the car basically shuts off because that was supposed to. And it
exactly.
Lee Zeldin says at the EPA he's getting rid of that so that your car doesn't have to stop every time you come to
so these are just annoying regulations that just drive us crazy. But then there are huge regulations that have. I mean, remember, the first thing Biden did when he came in is he canceled, because of his regulations, he canceled the Keystone XL pipeline, and the 5,000 jobs went away immediately. So these have a and we're all for clean air and clean water and safe working places and all those things. But we're talking about stupid regulations, and Trump is just one. But I can't even keep up with him, Sean. By the way,
I agree.
Going too fast. He's going too fast.
Well, by the way, I should have said it makes your engine turn off, not your car stop. But I agree with you. It's these stupid things, and this is where he's got his finger on the pulse of America, because he understands what frustrates people, and he says, "I'm going to fix that for you." I will say.
Oh, by the way, can I just say one quick thing, Sean?
Yeah, of course.
One of the regulations that really is consequential and really does affect our lives every day was Biden's electric vehicle mandate, which was going to force every American to buy a car. And by the way, I have nothing against electric vehicles. We have a hybrid. We love it. So, I'm not against electric vehicles. But my gosh, there's nothing more important to Americans than what kind of car they drive. We love our cars, right? We're Americans.
Right.
We don't want the government telling us what kind of car we can buy.
Right. And also forcing out, I mean, that was the thing, is that they were doing it it was costing us more. It wasn't actually helping the environment. I mean, again, drive what you want. I want to ask you, though, do you think when you look at the key components, you mentioned energy, I agree with you on that. Is technology its own piece of this? Meaning, like, how we address AI and this other stuff, is that critical as far as the economic agenda? Because as a layperson, I kind of look and say, if you want to be dominant in the future economically, you have to have a strong policy when it comes to embracing technology writ large, chips, which obviously we're doing, but then like AI, for example.
So it's a great point. And, if I have any complaint about the Trump economic agenda, and I'm 90% aboard. I think almost everything he's doing is fantastic. The one thing that worries me a little bit is like when he talks about, retaining, blue collar jobs. And there's no question Trump is the blue collar president. I mean, those are the workers that really overwhelmingly voted for Trump. But I don't want to chase the jobs of the 20th century. I mean, a lot of factory jobs, frankly, are going to be done by robots in 10 years. And
Right.
So what we need to do is get ready for the 21st. We need to dominate artificial intelligence. We need to dominate robotics. We need to dominate the pharmaceutical, bioengineering, this incredible stuff that's going on in those industries, the future. And I use the analogy of what happened with the internet. You know, the internet came about, in the early 90s, and the United States became the globally dominant country in internet. I mean, all the great companies, Amazon, Google, Apple, Meta, all these, you may not like their politics, but they're incredible companies. And I want to see America dominate the artificial intelligence world and the robotics world the way we did the internet. And there's no reason we can't. And all we need to do is really just, if Trump will just help us get the government out of the way, we have incredible, entrepreneurs in this country who will create hundreds and hundreds of great companies, the next Googles, the next Apples, the next Amazons. That's what I'd love to see.
Scott Bessent in his clip there mentioned the tax policy and the big, beautiful bill. From what you've seen so far, both on the spending side and on the tax side, what do you think of where it is right now and the impact it might have on the economy?
Well, I'm frustrated, frankly. I mean, I know Scott Bessent says it's moving along, but I don't understand why this didn't get done in the first 100 days. I mean, why is Congress? I'm mad at the Republicans in Congress. They're taking too long to get this done. And I want to remind your viewers that if we do not get, failure is not an option here. If we don't get this done and December 31 rolls around and then it's January 1st, 2026, the American economy is going to get hit with the biggest tax increase in history. So why are they taking so long? It's not that complicated. Make Trump's tax cuts permanent. That's supported by 70% of voters. Do the no tax on tips, the no tax on overtime, some of the other things Trump talked about in the campaign. Get it done, get it signed, sealed, and delivered. And as soon as Trump signs that bill, the economy is going to explode. So I'm just worried that they're making it harder than it has to be.
Okay, but so let's take it in bites. On the tax side, that seems to be, from everything I pick up, right? The only argument on the tax side is this thing called the state and local deduction, SALT, where some of these New Yorkers and New Jersey folks in California want to be able to deduct their mortgage payments on that, which is what the law used to be. That's the only hookup. So if that gets figured out, are you good with what's in the tax side of the bill so far?
Well, I have one objection to the House bill, which is the one that's moving right now. Since the first time I met Donald Trump in January of 2016, he was always talking about this 15% corporate tax rate. And Larry Kudlow and I would smile when he'd say that. We would hold that thought, Mr. President. Well, at that time we called him Donald, now we call him Mr. President. That's a great idea. That would be like rocket fuel for the economy. Well, he ran on that. He said, I want to cut the business tax in the United States to 15%, so we're the lowest in the world. It's not in the bill. Come on, give Trump his 15% rate. That would be great. So that's one of my few complaints is why aren't we putting that in the bill?
That's interesting. The funny thing is, until you just brought that up, I haven't even heard the Treasury Secretary talk about that. And I have a feeling that it just, quote, costs too much, which I think is a ridiculous.
It's going to pay for itself. I mean,
right.
I'm so sick of people saying that's what they said about Trump's bill. We got more revenue than ever before when we did the Trump bill. So, the lower you lower the rates, the more you lower those rates, the more business you have, the more jobs you have. It's so simple.
All right, so then let's talk about the spending side. There's this debate. I don't even know who to believe, Steve, because the House guys will tell you the Senate guys aren't cutting enough. I talked to Senator Roger Marshall. He thinks the Senate's going to end up with more savings than the House. He wants $2 trillion. If that's true, I'll be excited. I mean, I'm all for it. But I just, to me, this is the opportunity is at hand. The excuses have gone on for too long. And we need to reduce the size of government, make it more effective, more efficient, and the duplicity, right? Where do you come down on looking at this? Like, I know these guys all love to go home and campaign on cutting the deficit and cutting spending. And then secretly they're in the back room like, hey, let's just keep that. Let's keep that. Let's keep that. Let's keep that. I am concerned we're going to miss the moment when it comes to spending.
So let me just go back to something you just said, Sean. You said, that the Senate may get $2 trillion of savings. Well, I just want to make sure people understand this. Over the next, that's over a 10-year period. Over the next 10-year period, the federal government is supposed to spend something like $86 trillion. So just do the math. Even if we get the Republican, hawk plan, we're cutting 2 trillion out of 86 trillion. That's not a whole lot of progress. So I'd like to see some deeper cuts. But look, politicians love to spend other people's money, and it doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats. They rather spend than save money. But I am worried about our fiscal situation. I think everyone who watches your show understands what a dangerous situation we are in with this enormous debt. So I think they could do better. But this is the one thing that's always disappointed me about Republicans. They talk a good game, but then when it comes to taking the tough votes, they won't do it. And I mentioned one other quick thing on this is this. Really the lie of the media and the Democrats keep talking about, oh, women are going to lose their prenatal care when they're pregnant, and the rural hospitals are going to shut down. That's BS. All we're talking about with Medicaid is just making sure that the people are that people who are ineligible for the program aren't getting the free health care. This is not my number. This is not Donald Trump's number. This is the government's own auditors say 150 billion a year is stolen from that program, Sean. 150 billion a year.
I love the fact that no one will call them out. Everyone talks about cuts, and it's like just getting rid of people who shouldn't get it is not a cut. That's actually
Exactly.
There was a woman, Steve. I pointed this out the other day. CBS 60 Minutes Sunday night. Okay, this is not a friend to the right. 60 Minutes has an entire block dedicated to talking about how there's upwards of $750 billion of improper payments and illegals. This is the media saying it, and we're sitting around letting the Dems talk about cutting benefits. And I'm like, guys, seize this moment.
Yeah. Well put.
I know.
I knew it was over 500 billion. I didn't know it was over 700 billion. I mean, and that's per year. Per year. I mean, what kind of business? Think about this, because I know a lot of people who watch your show are businessmen and women. What kind of a business has a fraud rate of 12, 15, 20%? I mean, when I talk to people that run the credit card companies or run, financial institutions, if they have a fraud rate of 3%, they're out of business. And we have fraud rates in the government of 15 to 20%.
I want to get your take on this prescription drug executive order, right? The president says we should pay most favored nation status. So if India is paying $40 for a drug, we should pay $40. There are people now that are saying, well, that's market manipulation. Do you think this is good policy or bad policy? And then there are others to talk about the pharmacy benefit managers.
I'm not a fan of this. First of all, I agree that Donald Trump has certainly diagnosed the right problem. He is absolutely right that these other countries are ripping us off. It is not fair to America that we spend billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars developing these drugs through our great drug companies and our innovators. They're amazing, life-saving drugs. And so we spend all the money doing it. And then when we sell them, the Americans have to pay 3 times more for the drugs than, people in the UK or people in France or people in China. I mean, that's just outrageous. Now, what's going on is these countries are stealing our patents. They say, if you don't give us these drugs, we're just going to steal them. And so what worries me, though, is if we say, okay, America, we can only charge the lowest price of all these other countries, then we're not going to have any drug innovation. We want to win the race for the cure. We want to be, we want to cure cancer and heart disease and multiple sclerosis, and we want to, epilepsy and all these other terrible chronic diseases. I don't want to see the medical advances being disrupted by this. And unfortunately, we do pay the freight. Trump is right. It's not fair, but if we're not going to pay for it, who is?
All right. The last thing I want to ask you, you had this op-ed that was in the Boston Herald, the Washington Times, all over. In the Boston Herald, it's titled, "Let's Attract the Best and the Brightest to the U.S." You point out that there's this visa program right now that encourages investment in the United States, and I don't think a lot of people know about it.
So this is an amazing program. I supported this when we first started doing this. I think it was 12 or 15 years ago. It's basically, I'm not going to get too much into the details, but it says if a foreigner wants to invest money in the United States, Sean, and create jobs, 5, 10, 20, sometimes 50, 100 jobs, we want those people. We want that investment in the country. These are people who are going to create jobs for Americans. These aren't immigrants who are going to take jobs. These are immigrants who are going to create them. So we've had, and by the way, oftentimes they go into distressed areas of they'll go into the inner cities and start, a factory or some kind of facility that provides a lot of jobs for these low income areas. So it's been a real win-win situation, and I'd like to see that program expanded. And Trump talks about this all the time. We got to get the best and the brightest from the rest of the world. Trump is not anti-immigration; he's pro-immigration. It's just he wants to make sure they're coming in legally, and so this is one of our best visa programs. I'm strongly supportive of it. I think it should be expanded. I think the president is in favor of this program too. Then he has the idea of these gold visas. I like that idea too, where if you pay $2, $3, $4 million to the federal government, you can get a visa, and we could raise $100 billion that way and use that money to reduce our debt.
I think the cool thing about this EB-5 program that you wrote about is you're right. It creates an investment and jobs in the U.S. So this is, to me, kind of like the meritocracy. This is America first at its best. If you want to come to America, use the EB-5 program. Yeah. And by the way, the beauty of it that you point out is you get a green card, not citizenship.
Yes, I mean, we need to be, look, the great thing about America is everyone wants to come here because we're the greatest country on earth, and we can be selective. And we greatly benefit from immigration. When they come in legally, they got to come in the right way. And now we're so set up for this, Sean, because what Trump has done is he's controlled our border. We have a secure border again. It only took him, 60 days to do that. Illegal immigration is down 94%. Can you believe that? So now people are saying, okay, now that we've secured the border, we can let the people come in the legal way. And we want the immigrants who are going to be productive citizens, who are going to be, they have to, people want to come in and work. I don't want people to come in and go on welfare, on food stamps. People are going to work and share our freedoms and share, and that's so instrumental to America. And the EB-5 program is a perfect example of how we can often benefit from these foreigners who just want to get ahead in life, and that's the American dream.
Yeah, Steve Moore, appreciate you being with us and all the work that you're doing at the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, the Heritage Foundation, and 10 other places that you're. I mean, I don't know where you're not these days. You got a radio show. I mean, you're everywhere. So thanks for everything you're doing to get the word out on the economy and advocate for great policies that put America first.
Well, right back to you, Sean. Thanks so much for having me, and look forward to doing it again soon.
You bet. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. As I said, go to SeanSpicer.com and sign up. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Great panel coming your way. Steve Bannon on Friday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.